Rich, sorry, I couldn't hear you. Okay. Welcome to the Energy Independence Show. Today we have Jason Rodriguez from ZPrime. He's an expert in market research, statistical analysis, and business planning and businesses in general. Some of his interests are in energy and smart grid technology. So we're excited to have him. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thanks, Les. Happy to be here.
And if there was an audience here, a real one, we would ask them to clap and say happy birthday. Thank you for joining us on your birthday. Special time to talk about what you do and why you do it. So thanks for coming on this special day. So on question one, can you tell us a little bit about what motivates you in the energy industry?
Yeah, thanks. That's a great question. I think it comes down to about three reasons. The first is the people, and I think you being in the industry know that this is just good, lighthearted folks who when you're around them all day, us being a provider, a service provider to the energy industry, you get to see their work, their passion for their work, and why they do it, and it's really coming from a place of service, and that's inspiring to us and our staff to see that commitment. And the second is the community. I think energy is one of those places to where the work you do has direct impacts in a lot of different ways on the community, whether it's economic, whether it's environmental, or whether it's educational in a lot of ways. So that, and then the last one is the challenge. And I think we may touch on this later, but this challenge is that you can probably talk to 100 people and 50 would say, hey, things aren't going to change. But then there's other 50 that would probably say we have to change and we got to make it happen somehow. We just don't know how to do it. We don't have the means to do it. And I think that kind of motivates me as well, is that we're dealing with this Goliath of a challenge to go clean and to be resilient and to make it equitable for a lot of people. And that is a heavy lift that's going to take a lot of work. And that's motivating as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think that, we can look at it as a glass half full or is it half empty? I think it's certainly half full for sure, maybe more. Depends on how you look at it. But on question two, at the company you work for, ZPrime, what is ZPrime? What's your role there?
Yeah, so ZPrime, I'm the CEO, and probably with that comes a lot, especially a lot lately. Over this last 60 plus days, I think that role does change, but it also brings a light of the things that probably should have been paying more attention to anyway, to be quite honest. But a lot of it comes down to the strategic direction of the company, empowering our people to be creative and unleash their power and ideas. And then working and trying to connect the dots with partners where they can innovate, they can be creative, and where they can help tell their story. And so I get very involved there in terms of when we have different customers or partners who have thoughts and ideas and need some help moving them forward. I think we play a big role in that. And I have a lot of direct involvement with that. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to tapping into the talent within the people here and finding creative ways for them to use that talent.
Right. Well, I've seen in these last 60 days, speaking of it, I've seen a lot of your work and your team's work, which is great. We've all had an opportunity to take some time and learn from each other and coordinate with each other. So I appreciate what you and your team are doing over there in these challenging times. And speaking on question three, in these challenging times, have you seen promising trends for renewable energy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the ones happens there in your state, right? Just the national attention, maybe global attention that Los Angeles had just from the cars being off the street and the clean air and the reaction to that, and seeing people realize that if we just do things differently and try things differently with using renewable energy as a key means to get there, that this can be the norm. I think that's definitely one. I think here in Texas, for example, too, where the grid on many cases has been powered heavily going into the summer months by renewable power, whether it was wind and solar. You're also seeing that maybe in some places like Colorado, Minnesota, where they already have a lot of renewables on the grid, and they've been able to run a lot of their load for the day off renewables. So I think those are some key positive trends that are happening then also just seeing these commitments through various players saying that they're going to continue to meet their goals. And I think that's definitely encouraging. Looking overseas as well, you also see some folks using this Green Deal stimulus as a way forward, and I think that's something we should all be excited about.
Hmm. Well, yeah, there's so many positive things going on. And I think that there's a lot of data, and I'll ask you about some of those statistics. But I think we're in a change in a mindset, an opportunity for a new way of thinking as a result of overcoming these challenges, which is exciting. And speaking of statistics, on question four, as an analyst, can you share some interesting stats on energy lately? Besides, the fact that we're seeing such a big percentage increase in the overall generation of power from renewables.
Yeah, so I'll start with one that we recently did where we asked. This is going to the challenge of the a lot of the orders put in place to not shut off any folks. I think we did a survey of consumers, and there was about 10% that found that they weren't going to be able to pay their electric bill. And I think that says a lot to uh, the whole status that we're in, but that it directly impacts a lot of decisions for the power sector in general when folks can't pay their utility bill and how they deal with that. I think that's key. Another one, I think, on the bright side, we recently did a study on innovation and the culture of innovation, and we found that 42% of employees at utilities, specifically executives, found that they felt that their culture had a strong commitment to innovation. And this was done before the crisis hit. But I think those two stats really stick out. The other one I'll go ahead and throw in there is that 50% of workers in general feel that they're more productive and want to keep some type of work at home policy. And that plays into a lot of the energy sector when you start thinking about pulling more demand from the home, which can translate into, for example, maybe I should be thinking about rooftop solar because I'm going to have a higher energy bill because I'm going to be doing more and spending more time there. And maybe it also makes people rethink the way homes should be designed as they think of that about them more as a workplace slash place where they can live.
Absolutely. There's great examples there. I really appreciate those. And one that's pretty common or noticeable is that the air quality is better as people drive less. So hopefully that is a new trend that we see moving forward. That's one positive silver lining there, among others that you just mentioned. So I love the statistics. And speaking of the moment on question five, how has COVID-19 raised the awareness about renewable energy?
Yeah, I think where I see the biggest impact, honestly, is coming from this younger generation. This class of 2020, just put them between college and high school. I think you're seeing a lot there of the need and the realization that we can't do things the way we have. And I think that's exciting. I mean, we've had the chance to be interact with in San Antonio and in Austin with a lot of high school students, a lot of college students and interns, and just their interest in this subject and how to make the world a better place through the work they do, right? Is very inspiring. And I think this pandemic has really shown a light on some of the examples we've already talked about. You just mentioned, I think there's a photo from India with the smogs lifted there. And I think that's very revealing. And I think you're going to have a lot of folks out the gate that are really committed to this purpose-driven types of work, whether that's directly in working in the energy sector, solar, wind, or utilities, or maybe that's going to work on the sustainability side of a major corporation like a Dell or an Amazon.
Right. And we're seeing Amazon, Dell, Google, a lot of companies lead in the marketplace with efficiency efforts and even solar generation and power programs that really have reduced energy consumption and done it from renewables when it is done. So it's very impressive, the whole industry. So I would encourage people who are listening to take advice from people like Jason and do what your gut tells you to learn from this moment and work for companies and work with companies and other people that are trying to achieve the same goals. And in that way, we would encourage you to join the Energy Independence Group,
Yep.
facebook.com/EIG Solar.
Yeah,
Um,
Les, if I could add one more data point there that's there. So we recently talked to one of the ex-commissioner from Hawaii, and they said since the outbreak, they've actually seen an increase in residential solar applications.
Right.
And I think we're going to see later down the road that that data is probably supported on a national level too.
Absolutely. Well, we're seeing more interest here locally in Bakersfield, California, big time, and this is one of the biggest markets in the country. But doing this show and friending people from across the country, I'm getting a lot more interest from people in other regions of the country where maybe energy is cheaper, but they care about independence and they care about doing something like powering their home from the sun. So it's really exciting times, and I'm
Yeah.
seeing the same, and at least on not at statistical level, but on an enthusiasm level, I'm seeing a lot. So
Yeah.
we are excited about that too. And on question 6, what kind of interesting research projects have you been a part of?
Yeah, so we've done the gamut, right? So just the background, a lot of our launching pad happened back in 2008 and 2009 with the Obama stimulus that happened out of the Great Recession. So we got a chance to be a big part of do a lot of research for a lot of companies and utilities around that original smart grid and what the smart grid do. And that was very exciting to see and talk a little bit about the powers of two-way power flows and how that can eventually reach the customer. And I think looking back at it during that time, it wasn't where it is now, right? Where the consumers are so engaged, and you didn't have apps, and you didn't have the in-home speakers and all the technology that's driven there, either whether it's Amazon or Google. But
Mhm.
for us, that was very exciting to be a part of that and see this come there. I think right now some of the things we're involved in is just how companies and utilities in the energy sector can innovate both from a practical standpoint and then actually helping drive that. We're currently part of the National Renewable Energy Labs American-made Solar Prize. We're one of 5 power connectors that are charged with helping build a lot of interest and get innovative teams to apply to this challenge that's run by the Department of Energy. And I think that's one where what's good about it is our team gets to do the research and see the data and see where it's going, but then we actually get to be a part of the implementation of the action piece and how you drive and encourage innovation in this space, which is just very hard, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning.
Yeah, well, I think, getting to the top of the mountain is hard. I think you guys we're all very close. A lot of the technology is clearly here. The efforts are bearing fruit, and I think that we're going to see a good couple of years, a big boost, more continued exponential growth. And I'm very excited to hear what you guys are working on moving forward, because that is great what you're doing. So on question 7, how can renewable energy benefit other industries and help society innovate?
Oh man, I think that's $1 trillion question. But it's very true to I think to what ZPrime is really charged with enacting bold change. So I think it can do a few things. If you just start from wanting to work for a company with your employees and staff who want to be a part of someone doing good and contributing back, investing in sustainability and renewable energy is is a good place to start, right? You want to work for a company that's giving back, that's contributing to the local economy, but also making the world a better place. So, especially if you look at younger generations, right? They want to be a part of that mission-driven company, the social impact of a company. I think that's key. Secondly, is just the economic part of it. I think if the pandemic has definitely exposed the vulnerability of oil, right, and where that's going. But if you want to think about building a brighter future, I think if you lay the foundation with clean tech investment, then I think you also create a path to more jobs, sustainable jobs that do not have the risk that some of the oil industry has had. And being here in Texas, that rings very true, right? We love our trucks, we love our ranches, we love to be outdoors. So we have to fill that gap, but it's also very cultural in nature because it's so if you can bridge those two things where you can have the economic benefits and you can still give people the lifestyles they want through renewable energy, I think that's very exciting. And I think that's how you get it done.
Absolutely. Well, I call they both a few people have been on the show and referred to Bakersfield. Well, we referred to it. I think Current Economic Development Corporation's
Yeah.
CEO mentioned on here that it was the Austin of California,
Oh wow.
because we have a lot of oil and gas here too, and people love their trucks in Bakersfield. And we certainly understand that, where we are now and where we're moving forward is going to certainly involve a bridge, and it's a very innovative place. So, and where you're at too is a very similar place. So it's exciting for us to be working on teaming up with the community and getting these things done and moving things forward. So on question number 8, can you give us some examples of the use cases of your virtual reality education efforts?
Sure, sure. And this is also kind of tied to the second part of your how you can use this to innovate. And I think for us, we're using our footprint and expertise in energy to really educate the next generation to how to engage and learn about it differently. And we're using both virtual reality applications and solar electric vehicles and even smart cities. And we're taking this and partnering both with utilities and schools to get them excited of how to learn about energy and just get them to think about energy. And I think without innovation there, we probably wouldn't be able to do that. We probably wouldn't have even thought to even try to get into something like that. One of the more recent projects we're doing is we're showing the whole generation to consumer power flows, starting with coal, wind, and then ending with distributed solar in an augmented reality app that will be launching hopefully before the end of the summer, and it's something we're very excited about. But I think you tap into the the this new way that we're learning when you think about YouTube and what the internet has done and unleashed, and you mesh that with renewable energy and clean technology. I think there's a lot of unknown innovation that's about to happen, but you do need to shepherd it. And I think we see ourselves as a key part of that, and continuing to get that message out there. And that's what our bigger goal with that project is.
Awesome. Well, it's really exciting. I see the impact my wife as a virtual teacher has made on individual students' lives. So applying that technology with the mission that you guys have for renewable energy and advancing smart grid technology really is going to create and unleash, I think, an innovation not just here in the United States but across the world. And the interest is worldwide for this. There's a lot of passion I found so far, and you guys are very passionate, which is awesome. So on topic of the smart grids, on question 9, what role can energy storage management and smart grids in general play to change the world?
I th- One, I think it's the key pillar, right? It's something that folks have been trying to solve for a long time, and I feel over the last 5 years, those breakthroughs have happened to where this distributed grid, multi-flow grid, where folks can almost use their rooftop and or their battery at home as another income source, so to speak, or to offset to have zero energy costs, including fuel costs, which used to be gas. I think that is key, and I think to doing smart grid, probably people call it different things. They can call it like smart grid 4.0, right? Where you're disconnected from the grid, where utility providers are no longer your traditional utility, but they're just enabling those new ways of delivering power, right? So necessarily, if you talk to innovative utilities, they know that they can't just be in the poles in large scale generation business, because if they do that, they probably won't be around. They need to be in the business of enabling this next generation of the way consumers want to be a part of the grid. And that could be like, hey, I want to run it all myself, right? And I use Home Depot as an example. Home Depot, if you listen to the commercials, they have this big do it yourself campaign, right? So
Right.
that can easily be translated to, it may be Home Depot, it may be Amazon, it may be Apple, or it could be PG&E, it could be SC&E. They are driving the campaign to do it yourself, sustainable energy, and they have all the tools and things you need, plug and play, for the everyday mom or dad to do as a weekend project, which sounds far fetched, but so did having mobile phones and video conferencing just a few
Right.
years ago. So I think that is that that that's a key part, I think, of where this next generation of smart grids goes. And probably 2 years ago, you probably weren't thinking that far, but you fast forward and there's a pandemic and there's a big need to get there. I think a lot of those ideas come up now, and they're not as far fetched, I think, as some people would think.
Absolutely. And we call that the solar silver lining, but it should be the renewable energy
Yeah,
silver. silver lining. And because we've had this time to sit and talk and communicate with people like you, we've been more captive, and we've had access to more experts ourselves. And I think that's not just the case for us. I think it's the case for a lot of people in the world. It's been kind of a forced crash course on this revolution and what it really could do for society. So before we let you go, Jason, I know it's your birthday and I appreciate you coming on. It's been great to celebrate your day here and talk about what you do. Can you leave us on question 10? In these trying times, we like to ask, do you have a favorite quote or something uplifting you could share?
Yeah, and I think this is one that I use quite often, but I think it has a lot more meaning now. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I think that's an African proverb or old Chinese proverb, but that sort of rings true right now. I think that coming together amidst a lot of different opinions and information coming at everyone fast, and everyone's experiencing this pandemic differently. If we can find that connection amongst a large group of the population, I think a lot of good things happen, not just health wise, but financially, but also from a clean tech and sustainability perspective. This is the time now to go together. But we need as many ideas as possible to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's a great quote and great insight. Thank you for sharing your statistical analysis, but also your hope and your efforts over there at ZPrime. Tell everyone, if they're listening, that we appreciate what you're doing, and we'll continue to learn and collaborate with you guys. It's awesome to see what you're doing. If you're watching the show, we encourage you to join us next time. We try to have guests like Jason and experts on in our community who are passionate about energy and the role that it can play in making our world better, and that we believe the future is here now. So we encourage you to join us, comment, like, and share. We will see you next time. And again, Jason, happy birthday. And
Thank
thanks
you.
for taking this time to spend with us. Have a good one, man.
Thank you, Les. It's been a pleasure.
All right. See ya.
All right.